Hi, my name is Boris, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to make rolling techno bass lines. We'll analyze 3 patterns from various project files, and after today's video you'll be able to make rolling bass lines easily. But before we get into the video, if you like what we are doing on this channel, make sure to subscribe. We've got more videos on production in Ableton coming up. If you'd like to learn Live 12 with all the foundations of music production, make sure to see our beginner to advanced Live 12 start to finish course. And if you want to improve your melodic techno tracks, make sure to see the Melodic Techno Academy Volume 2, which is your definitive guide to mastering the genre. The tracks we're using today are all available as project files, the links will be in the description. Alright, let's jump in and check out the first example. So the track from which this fragment I'm about to play you comes from is called Axon Terminal. Let's just play this loop. Alright, so let's take a closer look at the bassline itself. Okay, as you can see, we have 2 layers. First we have a stab, then we have a bassline. I'm going to delete the MIDI from these layers, and let's just take a look at the sound design, what's going on here. Let's maybe take a look at the bassline first, because this is a bit simpler. Let's disable the volume pump. So we have a very simple saw wave, and then we're adding a square wave on top of it, just for some upper harmonics, and we're just shaping it with a low pass filter, slightly rolling off the very low sub frequencies, just shaping it with some EQ and compression, and obviously side chaining it. And then as for the stab, we have 3 layers, so this one is a bit more complex. Sounds like this. So first of all, we have the main layer in Wavetable. Maybe I'll disable the long delay effects. Okay, so what we have is the sub, and then we have 2 oscillators on top of it. So we have 100% of FM modulation added here. Sounds like this is the default saw wave. And then we also have another oscillator with just a basic saw wave. So all these 3 together, they work quite well because we have the unison mode added, and we have the shimmer mode and 3 voices with 30% of amount. So it gets a bit wider, and then we're kind of in the mid-side mode. In the utility, we're just tweaking the mid-side balance of this sound. So in order to turn this knob into a mid-side mode, you just right-click on it and go into mid-side mode. By default, it's like this. This way you're not creating phasing issues by summing up the sound to mono. We have some effects on top of this. We're not going to be diving too deep. Now the second layer is the wide layer from the vintage category called OB6, so Oberheim style oscillator, also a random note, unison mode, and 4 voices, so it's quite wide. So just for some additional stereo width. And then we have a noise layer, which is just the plain white noise in Operator, because we don't really have a white noise generator in Wavetable, and yeah, we're just shaping it with the filter. On top of all these layers, we have a bunch of effects, and let's enable the echo. Listen to this once again. Okay, so the echo really adds that long echoey tail. Let's start from the bassline maybe, and then we'll add the stabs on top of it, because the rolling bassline is just this one track. And we're going to make a very short pattern, 1/4 of a bar. I'm gonna make a blank MIDI clip. Make sure the grid is 16th notes, and we're just going to be playing 1 note pretty much. So we are in the scale of G here. Right, so let's just add G. Sounds like this. And then we're gonna duplicate it, go up an octave, duplicate it, go back to G1, duplicate it, go up an octave. So we're just jumping octaves, just playing G. Make sure it's looped, and you can now extend it over the entire area that we're working with. Let's hear it. Obviously, we're doing a lot with this volume pump. It would sound like this without it. We have a separate video on setting up a volume pump like this with the shaper and utility, but basically this shaper is controlling the gain of utility, and it's just doing, so we're just sidechaining in a fancy way here. Let's play this with the kick. So we can hear that the first note is barely audible here. I'm just going to extend this. Let's maybe write some stabs here on the stab layer so that we have this cool interplay of the stab and the bassline. For the stab we're also sticking with G only, but the stab is playing very fast notes, and if you right click you can select the 30-second notes, so it's going to be very dense here. For instance, let's try something like this. It's going to be quite a machine gun effect. But we can now disable some notes, for example, like this, and maybe... yeah, and also we can do the same thing, for example, copy this pattern onto this area, maybe add a 30-second note over here. Let's listen. These stabs are super fun, and you can play around with different rhythms. There's lots of versions you can do, and this is quite a popular technique, especially used very widely by Anyma. Right, let's proceed on to the next pattern. We have a project file called Substances. Right, so as you can see, the bass is following the chord progression. Let's delete the MIDI. I'll go over what the sound design looks like. So we have two layers, the bass layer and the sub layer. They're just playing different frequencies. Here we have more of the mids present. As you can see, this area here around 300 Hertz. So we are letting through many more of the mids here than the sub, but we are just also limiting the lows here so that they don't clash with the sub. And then obviously we have sidechain compression going on here, more cutting and even more sidechain compression. It's just a very basic synth patch. Let's see what's going on. So we have the sub, which is barely audible, and we have a square wave with the modern warp setting on, and then we also have a saw wave, a bit into the triangle wave actually. So a very nice combination here with the sub and everything else. It's really good for these upper bass frequencies. We're combining this with a sub, which is a very simple sine wave, nothing on top of here. We're just compressing it slightly, doing some equalization and just side chainings. So this is a nice strong sub frequency going on below our bass. And as for the pattern, let's write it. It would be actually easier to create it just for one bar, and then we'll extend it and move around the notes. So we're not playing anything on the downbeats, and we can basically duplicate this pattern, and let's just make the notes shorter, and maybe the last notes here we can make a bit longer like this. And actually let's choose the right notes. So we're going to G1. Maybe we can extend these notes slightly. And now let's copy this over to the sub. Let's hear everything together. Actually, I think we need slightly longer, these notes. So I'm going to duplicate this again and copy it over onto the sub. Okay, and we already have a rolling bass line. Now, if this is looped, we can extend this 8 times, consolidate the pattern, and at bar 3, we're going to go to C to follow the chord progression. Then we're going to D sharp. I'm going to copy this over to the sub. And as for the sub, we actually want to move these notes a few octaves down. Okay, so let's play it now. Okay, so that would be our pattern number 2. And let's listen to pattern number 3. This one is from a project file called Become One. Let's hear it. And let's listen to only the bass. And it's very, very simple, just one note. We're still in G minor, so let's take a look at the sound design of these layers. We have a sub bass and a top bass once again, and a volume pump on top of these tracks. So we have a mono sub bass, and on top of it we have analog with really nice detuned unison saw wave. Let's hear it. So maybe let's write this pattern on the top bass track and then we'll also duplicate it onto the sub. Let's start with just one bar, and it's incredibly simple. All you need are 16th notes. We could actually just click on G2, which is going to be our note, and go to legato here, and then we can click Ctrl and E to chop it on the grid. And we can make the note shorter by dragging left the right end of these notes. Let's hear it. And let's copy it over onto the sub. And let's play it. Let's enable the volume pump. And I think we have the pattern. We can extend this MIDI pattern if it's looped. And let's listen. As you can see, the rolling bass lines are very simplistic. All you need is really a saw wave with a low pass filter and maybe a strong sub underneath it. As for the sound design of the sub itself, we have two layers, a saw wave and also a square wave, which is very quiet, but we're just blending it in slightly for some upper harmonics here, and we are just limiting the bass also with this auto filter. On the top bass layer, we have just one oscillator playing. It's really simple, but in my opinion very effective, and it works well. What matters is that it works well in the track itself. Alright, I hope you will find these rolling bassline techniques useful. Make sure to check out our Music Production Academy with lots of start to finish courses on making tracks in various genres, and if you'd like to learn Live 12 and all the foundations of music production, check out the Beginner to Advanced Live 12 Start to Finish course. If you want to improve your melodic techno productions, see the Melodic Techno Academy Volume 2, which is your definitive guide to mastering this genre. The tracks we've used today are also available. All links you will find in the video description. Make sure to subscribe to our channel, click the notification bell. If you enjoyed this video, leave us a like, write a comment, and I will see you in the next ones.